Hello everyone, I'm your hostess with the mostest, 8-Second Gaming, and in today's video we are going to be talking about all the tricks that you will need to know to dominate as a Reinhardt player against other Reinhardt players.
Oh hey, didn't see you guys there. Are you guys tired of being tired? Feeling like you're missing your shots because you're just not fully awake while you're gaming? If that's the case, then you guys need to check out our new sponsor, Sneak. Sneak is an energy drink company with 15 amazing flavors. They've got no artificial flavors or coloring, they've got no sugar, they've got no crash, even though they have 150 milligrams of caffeine per serving, all to give you an edge while you're gaming. Sneak was nice enough to send me a few flavors to try out myself, and I gotta be honest guys, I love them. They really help me have that mental awareness to pull off clutch plays when it comes down to it. But if you guys are on the fence about trying this because you're like me, you have commitment issues, you don't really know if you want to go for a full tub, Sneak has you covered. They have a starter pack which includes 9 flavors and also a free shaker cup. And yes, those 9 flavors can be mixed and matched to whichever ones you think sound the best. There's a new 150 gram tub so you can try some of Sneak's best products for a low price. It's just 20 bucks per tub with 15 servings, so click my link below and get yours now.
First of all, why is it important? Well, beside the extreme obvious importance of the gameplay aspect, in matches where it is Rein vs Rein, it is extremely evident who is better. Therefore, being the best in the lobby is crucial for your ego. There is no better feeling than simply Rein gapping your enemy tank player and typing that sweet tank diff in the chat afterwards. So here's what we're going to be talking about. First off, how to take space better. Next up, how to ultimate better. After that, how to deny the enemy Rein's ultimate. After that, how to fight better for space. And lastly, overall play better. The Rein vs Rein battle is all about understanding the resource game, how many resources you have in comparison to the enemy team, which doesn't even depend on what backline each enemy team has most of the time, but how many resources they have used at the current time of the match. Understanding this is no easy feat and requires amazing intuition and game knowledge, but we want to break it down nice and easy so you can get a start and gain some experience. When initially figuring out how many resources you have in comparison to the enemy team, of course, first determine how many resources you have in the first place as you approach a fight. Things to take into consideration are your team composition, heroes that can force cooldowns from enemies without using too many resources of their own, for example a Cassidy who can force Ana's nade and Kiriko Suzu just by applying pressure, and up next you want to approach the corner. Consider how long it took for you to approach said corner and what resources you had to make there. If you run a composition such as Ana, Lucio, Hanzo, Cassidy, you likely didn't use very many as you can apply pressure easily and heal easily. Once you reach the corner, the enemy Rein, unless he is dumb, should be fighting for control of it. So now you're in the brawl stage, fighting over the corner of whichever map. The Rein whose shield falls first is likely to be the one falling back and giving up space, which is okay if you're an attacker but terrible as a defender. This means using your shield as little as possible approaching the corner is key. Other than the approach, you should be swinging your hammer as much as possible to create pressure on the enemy Rein. This will hit them and their shield if they are holding it, putting them on the back foot. Now those are pretty much all the basics of taking space. It really is as simple as understanding how to fight for corners efficiently and knowing when you can go forward when no shields have been broken. But what do we do in neutral fights out in the open? Well, first of all, give up no space for free. Walk as far forward as you feel you can safely. This will require a hell of a lot of intuition, I'm sorry to say it, but with practice comes perfect. So make sure you start off swinging as much as you can, as again, you must create as much pressure as possible. If you simply come off as menacing, most of the time enemy Reinhardt players, and especially inexperienced ones, simply feel too threatened to not back off, leaving you with a massive spatial advantage and winning the opportunity. Now deathballing in a Reinhardt composition is fine, but having an off angle is best as your teammate can apply pressure elsewhere and take less attention off of you walking forward with your shield. Understanding whether or not your DPS are opting for this will also help you gauge how many resources you have. Just remember, this applies for enemy DPS off-angling your backline too, taking resources away from you, damaging the enemy Rein. Alright though, maybe the first fight has passed. How do we track the enemy Rein Shatter? Thankfully, in Overwatch 2, you can see the damage on the scoreboard, meaning if it's the second fight, you can compare your ult charge and damage to the enemy Rein's, and you can be pretty confident if he has Shatter ready or not. But how do you want to play when he does have Shatter? Well, first, I believe it's important to know what you want to do with the Shatter, and then you can use this information when defending against one. First things first, if only you have Shatter, you have the advantage, which means the enemy Rein should be forced into situations where he cannot hold corners or open space, as his shield falling essentially means it's an instant fight loss for him. Using your Shatter when the enemy Rein still has a lot of shield ready is called a gamble Shatter, and it's generally a bad idea. But sometimes you can just go for those gamble plays. After all, it really asserts dominance. Anyway, let's imagine the enemy Rein does have Shatter. You have two options. Number one, play super aggressive, forcing resources out of the enemy team, causing him to either use Shatter spontaneously, which you must predict for reasons we will talk about in a minute, or number two, play super passive. This one is the more consistent option, especially if your team is more poke oriented in their composition. But now let's understand the mechanics of blocking Shatter. Shatter's hitbox has a travel time. The further away the target is, the longer it takes for them to be stunned. This means it is significantly easier to block a Shatter when further away. That is why playing more passive when the enemy has Shatter is generally opted for, but this rule changes when both REINHARDTs have it. When in a situation where both REINHARDTs have Shatter, you usually want to be the one who looks to get yours off first. Therefore, you must be wary that you are within close range where you cannot react to block their Shatter, and you can only predict it. With extremely good intuition, this can be great, but as a beginner or semi-advanced player, you may feel quite lost when you're looking to do this mind game in the enemy Rein Shatter. So forcing out resources, usually by getting in one good swing and then holding your shield up and repeating that, is a very good way to apply this pressure while also being unshatterable. However, be sure to always switch up your pattern, as if you become too predictable, you will be shattered just as you drop your shield. Now, since it can be extremely confusing to mind game your opponent, let's talk a little bit about a move mechanic you can do with your Shatter that works amazing to pull off big slams. So Shatter has an odd mechanic where if you jump and ultimate with a movement key just before you land, your ultimate does not land instantly, instead you slide a little bit. This can be amazing for hitting Shatters around corners, or from close range, since enemy Reins will have a hard time reacting, even with the increase of time they have, as your Shatter will be delayed. Moving forward though, let's talk a little bit less about the ultimate mind game and a little bit more about neutral territory, where we fight for space from the enemy Rein. It can be quite confusing how to use your charge, since you may now cancel it. Is it good to go for random pins? Is it bad? Well, we have the answer. If your team is fully prepared for your play and the enemy team is not running a full CC or burst damage composition, always look to pin. You can do this around corners or just straight up in the open, but charging is generally overpowered when there's not a specific hero to counter it, as the worst case scenario is that you miss, in which case you can just cancel. Making sure your target was originally close enough is still key, however, as you don't want to leave your team's front line for the enemy Rein to push straight into. And keeping in mind the ability to counter charge leaving both REINHARDT stunned on the floor temporary is important, as sometimes he may have more backup than you do. Overall though, now you understand a little bit more about how to play neutral, how to take corners, how to play the ultimate mind game just a little bit better. REINHARDT is an extremely intricate hero with many playstyles, and even some people playing him as a flanker. However, understanding each of his playstyles and picking up on cues when playing him will certainly lead to a higher win percentage. But that's gonna be it for this video, guys. I really hope you enjoyed it and learned something new. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one.